A new active weather setup is anticipated moving into next week, and this comes as the jet stream is expected to remain very active from west to east, allowing for some areas of rain while others see snow. This video is the full breakdown on what you can expect out of that new active weather pattern, including your chance for rainfall or snowfall.
One Nation Weather.
Thank you for taking time out of the end of your week, and as we push into this weekend to tune into this video, as always, I greatly appreciate you being here. As always, I like to start my videos with a look up into the atmosphere, 15 to 20,000 feet, with the European model, because the troughs and ridges that occur in the atmosphere often dictate the surface pattern. In this case, we're going to see a very new kind of pattern as we push out of this weekend and towards the start of next week. This is as we go towards our Sunday, December 8th of 2024, this area that I just boxed in, seeing ridging. This is where the jet stream is being pushed northward. We've got more of a south to north kind of general wind flow, especially in the atmosphere. And this is very different in comparison to what has been happening recently for a lot of the eastern and central U.S. because there's been a lot of troughing where cooler has been allowed to dive southward. That's not the case. We're going to see things begin to warm up 5, 10, 15 degrees above average as we head out of the end of this weekend and into the early part of next week. But the reason things are going to be interesting in terms of active weather as we make our way into the Monday, Tuesday timeframe and beyond is because we not only have this eastern ridge building up like so, we also have this area of blues that you can see cutting out of the mountain west, making its way through the north central plains. And that is a strong mid to upper level trough or dip in the jet stream coming on down. As that interacts with our warmer air in the southerly flow to the east, that is when we're going to begin to see the activity pick up. So as we go as early as Monday, we'll see some of that beginning to make its way from the central U.S. to the east. But it's by the time we go through our Monday into our Tuesday and Wednesday when things become even more active, especially across this general area where we're going to see the interaction between our trough and the ridge. And when you get an interaction between the trough and the ridge, that not only means that we're going to have some low pressures moving through, it can also mean that you get some areas getting rain on that front end of the low, and then some areas getting snow as the trough and the actual cool air cuts in behind it. So with all this contrast happening, I wouldn't rule out some chances for snow as we move into next week. And I want to go ahead and time out the overall active weather pattern area by area as we make our way into that time frame. Here we go, heading out of our Saturday the 7th into our Sunday, December 8th of 2024. Not a whole lot going on, but you can really see how a couple of weaker areas of low pressure up here in the north central plains are really beginning to help this ridge in just pulling up moisture. The contrast here is that we've got this warmer air and some of this moisture bringing some showers down into the mid-south, eventually moving up towards the Midwest. Meanwhile, back out here in the western U.S., we're going to begin to see that troughing flow as early as Sunday into Monday. Here we go, out of our Sunday night and into our Monday, through the day here into our Monday afternoon, really looking at a very big area in the eastern U.S. where we're going to have a pretty good chance for some shower and storm coverage. That's going to include places anywhere from around Mississippi and the mid-south, all the way here through our southeast states, Georgia, Tennessee, the Carolinas, and then up into the mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley. You name it, a brief splash of wetness as a result of this initial round of some activity into the early part of next week. But once we really begin to see the trough and ridge interacting, that's when you see some of these blue and reddish lines kind of getting closer together as we push towards midweek. So again, it's really going to be around Tuesday when things become a little bit more interesting in terms of our winter weather setup. We're probably going to see some form of low pressure form around here heading out of Tuesday evening, heading into Wednesday, and that is going to make its way from the southwest to the northeast along the leading edge of our trough. And look at how that begins to play out. You can really see that energy pushing north. Looks like a mostly rain event as this cold front makes its way through. But whenever you got a cold front pushing through and there's just enough moisture from the ridge interacting with that trough, that could mean a big burst of heavy snow on the tail end of our cold front. So either way, it's going to get cooler than average in the east by the time we head to the middle to the back half of next week. But it could also mean some snow breaks out behind our heavier rain. Before I break down that exact zone for the snowfall, let me go ahead and show you the forecasted rain totals from the European model, making our way through the early part of next week. First of all, before that big trough ridge interaction occurs, already as early as Monday, we're just seeing a general active weather pattern with around a half an inch to an inch of rain in a lot of those zones in the blues and yellows during this point. And then as we push beyond that time frame, look at how the East Coast especially really fills up with those rain totals Tuesday, Wednesday into early Thursday. I think this particular zone right in here is where we're going to have that best chance for some of our flooding chances to rise up as we see 1, 2, 3 inches of rain with locally higher amounts especially where that rain falls in a faster period of time. That's where that best chance for flooding is going to sprout up. But let me go ahead and give you a look at the same thing I just showed you with the European model alone, with a blend of our GFS model and some other guidance into this GFS ensemble system. First of all, here we go out of our Sunday and into our Monday of next week. Again, as I've been talking about, just a general flow, even as early as Monday here before the big trough ridge interaction. Rain ongoing here through a lot of the eastern and central U.S. Expect a messy start to next week, and that will only continue to build, as you can see, as we go out of Monday and into Tuesday, with southerly flow moving in. But the big change here between the European guidance and guidance like this with the GFS is the fact that the GFS has our trough moving into the moisture a lot faster. And with that kind of setup, that could mean even a chance, at least if you go with this kind of solution, for some snow up into Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and then following the entire tail end of this front out of Tuesday and Wednesday through the Midwest, through the Ohio Valley. Look at that as the low forms up here somewhere around the coastal parts of the Northeast, bringing a lot of rain up the coast. Snow ongoing over this entire back area of the low. That's going to be the interesting part, I think, to track here. In addition to the heavy rainfall and the flooding threat that some areas will have, it's how quickly this cool air catches up to the back end of our front, and when that could mean that our snow begins breaking out for some zones. Either way, it certainly looks like into parts of the interior Northeast, we will see this wrap up with some lake effect type activity, and we'll definitely at least have some pockets of heavier snow even up into the mountains as we go towards around the Wednesday into Thursday timeframe as cool air pushes into a lot of the eastern U.S. In terms of snowfall here from a higher end solution like the GFS ensembles, first of all, I want to point out that even this isn't necessarily a lot of snow in most zones. Notice, through the early parts of next week with troughing here in the west, we are going to see some snowfall. It's not going to be a lot, especially considering that there's a lot of mountains out here, but some pockets of heavier snow in the higher elevations of Idaho and Montana into the early part of next week. Once we go out of our Monday into Tuesday, that's when we could begin to see snow chances on the back end of our front. That would be somewhere here into the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes if that does begin. Even this more bullish solution with the GFS ensemble members, you can see what those grays and blues indicate. Really only an inch, maybe 2 or 3 inches of snow possible at probably the high end, even if a burst of snow does follow our front here. The best chance for some heavier accumulating snow through the next several days is going to be not only with near-term activity that's been going on as a result of our troughing in the Northeast, but once we get that new one to follow with our cold front pushing to the middle part of next week. Look at that. We could get several inches of snow, especially in interior Northeast zones, and maybe even a little bit pushing it down towards the coast. But as we head towards the back half of this video here, I want to go ahead and break down where the temperature anomalies are going to be and where things are going to cool back down after a warm up next week. First of all, here you can see in the near term, we're seeing our cooler that we've been seeing for the last couple weeks now exiting the east coast. That's what I talked about earlier in the video. What's it making way for? For at least a brief period of time, this warmer air making its way out of the central U.S., making its way towards the east, anywhere from the plains into the Midwest, the Ohio Valley. Monday heading into Tuesday is going to be a warmer than average time by at least 5 to 10 to even 15 degrees above average. You can see, though, as we go through the day Tuesday into our early Wednesday, that's when we're going to begin to see our cold front likely form, some form of low pressure system riding along that front. And again, it's exactly how much moisture we can see making its way into this cool air right here, and whether that cool air is catching up fast enough that some point late Tuesday into Wednesday we will have to watch that snow chance beginning somewhere in the Midwest, but then especially as we make our way towards the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Notice either way, the cooler air really makes that big presence by the time we go, especially out of our Wednesday into our Thursday. This is Thursday morning, where temperatures could be anywhere from around 10 to 15 to even 20 degrees below average for this time of the year over most of the eastern U.S. These anomalies will continue towards that east coast and really just linger around through at least Friday, and then as we move towards Saturday. But then we look to be warmer than average once again, maybe setting up another kind of same thing to what we're going to see early next week by the time we go towards next weekend, with warmer than average air building into a lot of the country. But let's go ahead and take a look at the day-by-day temperatures here using the National Digital Forecast Database projections, giving you a look at what that ridge is going to do in terms of warming up our temperatures, and then of course the cool down behind. We're not just looking at the anomalies but the actual numbers here. First of all, here are our maximum temperatures into our Saturday afternoon. We've got a big plume with that ridge already with some 60s in the central plains. Meanwhile, the eastern U.S. still cool with lots of 30s up there into the northeast. By Sunday, look at this broad and expanding zone of warmer temperatures here through the east. 60s as you go down there towards the Gulf Coast, plenty of 50s even as you move up towards the Midwest and Ohio Valley, and this will only continue to build by the time we go into our Monday. An even warmer day here, but you can also kind of notice that contrast already between our general trough in the west and the ridge in the east. We've got plenty of 70s down towards the Gulf Coast, 60s in Arkansas, Tennessee, and then 50s as you push into Indiana, Illinois, Missouri. Meanwhile, back to the northwest of there, we've got 30s behind our general cool front that's going to progress east out of Monday into Tuesday. And look at how that really builds. By Tuesday afternoon, we've got plenty of 60s and 70s in the southeast U.S. While we've got teens back up there towards the north central plains, and you can really see that jet stream dip that's going to be prominent by midweek next week as our front begins to push towards the coast and offshore. With that dry air that's going to come in behind our front, there won't be much snow here, if at all, but it is going to be cool and dry with plenty of those teens and 20s to go around and be shared. So the really big problem with our weather pattern here is that we're just seeing cool air not meeting up with the snow, and that looks to be the case even with most of this cool down towards the middle to the back half of next week, as 30s dominate a lot of zones. But with that being said, that is it for today's video. I appreciate you tuning in, as I mentioned earlier. One thing that I would love to hear from you about down below, in addition to your normal comments, is how did you enjoy this video style where I talked more live over the weather model maps instead of doing a voiceover after? If you couldn't even tell the difference, that's even better. So let me know down below. And of course, check out Weatherbell if you enjoy the weather model maps I use in my videos and want them for yourself. There's a free trial link below in the description. And of course, the only other thing down below that you need to do is hit that subscribe button to me right here at One Nation Weather if you want more consistent, accurate, and educational forecasts in the future. I'll catch you in the next update, likely sometime late tomorrow on our Saturday or on Sunday.
One Nation weather.